So I'm not afraid to admit that I'm more excited for next episode after seeing this episode than I was for this episode, period. And this episode was actually really good, but it also was very kind of upsetting and kind of depressing, and Aizawa said it perfectly.
Is this a funeral or something?
So yeah, let's get into episode 6 of My Hero Academia and just prepare ourselves for the next episode after this one. But let's just talk about this one for today. Let's get started. So we already knew from the preview of last episode that there was going to be some sort of meeting being held, but the way they built tension in this episode of sort of this confusion and uneasiness and driving home that our characters didn't know what they were getting into was done really well, because we have Deku, Kirishima, Suya, and Uraraka all going to their work studies, all called in at the same time, going to the same place, on the same train, in the same street, in the same building. And so we get this very uneasy feeling from the characters. Even though we know from the preview what's going to happen, we still get to see them kind of trying to piece together what's happening. And it's done really well, actually. And once they arrive at Sir Night-Eye's headquarters, of course, they see the big three, Mr. Aizawa, or Eraserhead, which I love the fact they have to drive home. Like, he has to keep telling him, like, call me Eraserhead outside of school, call me Eraserhead outside of school, because we've known him as a teacher for all this time. And yeah, we know he's a hero, but we see him so much as a teacher that it's funny to be reminded in this way of not just All Might, because All Might was sort of hero first, teacher second, but the way we were introduced to Mr. Aizawa, or Eraserhead, was that, yeah, he's a hero, but we were introduced to him mainly as a teacher, so it is cool to see that. And they play really well into that later in the episode, but I'm getting ahead of myself, like I always do. I should make a shirt that just says, I'm getting ahead of myself. Anyway, so we have all of the characters that we've been introduced to before, and some very new faces and new heroes, and we now know that they're all sitting down for a talk to help with an investigation. And for the beginning portion of this meeting, we're kind of just reiterating things we've already been told, things we already know, because we talk about the altercation, we talk about Overhaul taking twice, taking Overhaul to the League of Villains headquarters, and it's a very much like reiterative sort of interaction we see with all these characters. So we as the viewers don't learn anything. It's more just to get us back up to speed on things that happened earlier in the season, which is fine. I mean, this episode is pretty much, 100%, 99% meeting. Now, there's one character who was kind of irritating me personally, because I know we are getting brought up to speed, but on the same hand, we've got the Class 1A students who are showing up, like Kirishima. Kirishima didn't really fully know what was going on, but he does know that he was involved with the altercation previously. We have all of these moments with him asking questions because he was just sort of in the scenario. He was kind of a part of this without actually trying to be a part of this. Uraraka and Suya are in the same boat. The hero that they're doing their work study with figured that they're going to be perfect for this and perfect for helping with this investigation. So there's that. And the people who probably know the most about this and are most directly involved are going to be Deku and Mirio. But the character who was irritating me was the dude with the locks, kind of stepping in and constantly saying, why are children here, why are children here? Like, he, I feel like, is going to be probably proven wrong at some point. The just children thing, I guarantee you that at some point he's going to have a comeuppance moment. But it was just kind of irritating because I don't know, I get that he's like supposed to be like not fully understanding that these kids are more than what he sees, but whatever. It just irritated me every time he cut in. We also get sort of an idea of how caring Mirio is about all of his friends, and I say that because when they were talking about what happened with Kirishima, we of course then go back to what Kirishima was involved in. So in the last episode, we of course have Kirishima and Tamaki along with Fat Gum dealing with this quirk erasing or quirk damaging gun, bullet actually, not the gun, but the bullet. And when they brought this up, Mirio was actually very concerned that Amajiki may have lost his abilities, but he didn't. They were actually properly restored. I guess he just had a moment where they needed to heal. We actually learn more about Eraserhead's quirk as well, which is kind of neat, and how the bullets they're using are different from the quirk that Mr. Aizawa, I'm like the students, I keep wanting to say Mr. Aizawa, that Eraserhead used. So the way that Eraserhead's quirk works is that he actually just blocks the genes that are involved in the quirk. He doesn't damage them, he just keeps them from presenting themselves. This bullet actually damaged the genes involved in creating the quirks that the people who are affected have. That's why with Amajiki he couldn't create the tentacles when he was hit by this bullet, but one night's sleep and he was back to normal. So they bring up as well that the bullets may very well be in testing, which means that they are being brought out into the public, or rather brought out into the black market, as a way of testing to see how much they can improve on them and things that need to be ironed out in a way. Which is kind of scary to think. We have a lot of really cool characters with a lot of really cool quirks, and it's possible that with Overhaul's ability to create and destroy matter, basically play with matter how he wants, the potential for them to be making these bullets that could 100% erase a quirk forever. That's kind of horrifying, actually. Think of with characters like Mirio, or if Deku if Deku lost all for one, or one for all, that would be, I don't think he will. If Deku loses one for all, that would stop all for one, or one for all right there. That'd be it. There would be no more passing it on. It would have ended right then and there. I don't think that's going to happen, because that would take a lot in general of sort of fixing a story. I don't think he's going to lose it, but I don't know. But like the possibility of like Mirio or any of the big three really losing their abilities, any of the students from Class 1A losing their abilities, that's a scary thought. Yeah, and on the topic of these bullets, of course, we know that one of them was collected by, I guess, the heroes or by the police or both, because we had the one that bounced off Kirishima's head because his quirk was hardening, so it bounced off his head and didn't inject anything into him, so it was fully ready there to be collected and examined. So hopefully that means that the heroes will be a little bit ahead, but I really don't know. And this is where the depressing and very difficult part of the episode happens, which is that we discover when they analyze the bullet that it had human blood in it. And Deku and Mirio very quickly realize that it is quite possibly and most likely, and later on pretty much almost certainly, coming from Eri. And this really tears them up. And this also brings up one of the heroes questioning why they didn't save her right then and there. And Deku and Mirio obviously aren't taking too well to this because of the fact that Deku wanted to, right up front, make this happen, take Eri, save her, and take the front of the possible violence that would ensue. Mirio decided to wait for a later opportunity, both of whom now are bearing the guilt of leaving Eri in this horrible scenario. And you can even see, while the heroes are questioning why they didn't do anything about it, they are both, which is very weird to see with Mirio, they are both very upset and very they take it so hard. And it is, like, even Tamaki points out that, it's very rare not to see Mirio smile. He's never seen Mirio not smile. And we know that this character who always wants to smile, it's just hard, especially when we have Deku saying, number one hero, not even close because of this blunder. And we have Mirio saying that, he wants to save 1 million people, but he didn't even save one. He let one go into this scenario. So they're both, the way they portray them taking it very hard is it hits home, man. It really hits home. Then we get to the roots of the plan, which is that they're trying to be thorough in going after each of the locations where there are strongholds or affiliates of the Shiei Hisaikai. And the reason why these different heroes are at this meeting is because each of them is in an area where one of the strongholds or one of the affiliates is located, which means that they can actually spy, look, potentially assault those locations to make sure that they are able to stop this from happening as soon as possible and as efficiently as possible. And Fat Gum, of course, is very like, we got to go make this happen, come on. He's all about it. He wants to sort of do the All Might thing, which is to just go after it, make it happen, save them, period. But it's brought up that the way that they are going about it is probably the wiser way, because if they just dive in and make it happen as quickly as possible, it could have the same result as when they took out the hero killer Stain, because they arrested him, and that just sparked more villains to join the League of Villains. So they need to do this in a way that's more thorough, more planned out, not as public and just as tightly knit and as well orchestrated as possible. And during this, the question comes up of, well, why don't we just have Sir Night-Eye use foresight, because he's able to sort of see the future and see what might happen. And we learn some of the caveats with what his ability entails. So we learn that foresight is only good for one person. He can only use it in a 24-hour time span. After that, it's spent till the beginning of the next 24 hours. And the time that he can see the person's future, he can see their entire future played out in front of him like a movie, but it's only focused in on them. That means that he lacks context with a lot of the stuff that might happen. So it's possible he may see somebody's death, like he did with All Might's. It's possible that he may see something else, terrible or good, but he only sees it in context, which is why in combat, like what we saw with him versus Deku, that worked out very well, because the only thing he could see is the direct movements of Deku. So all he had to do was avoid those. But in a broader scale, on something larger, like an attack on the Shie Saikai, or whatever battle is supposed to be happening with All Might, it's not going to be as precise, because he only sees the death of All Might or whatever might happen to a hero if they go after the Shie Saikai. So that's where it's kind of uncertain, and he refuses anyway because he doesn't want that burden, and I kind of get it. But anyway, with that, they begin to devise their plan. They sort of finish up the meeting, and then we're out with the students of Class 1A, and with the Big Three as well, and both Deku and Mirio are just so depressingly depressed. But then Eraserhead comes in, and he kind of breaks the tension, but also talks about what he had originally been planning on doing, which was to cancel the work studies before this happened. And part of that reason is he says he still can't 100% trust Deku after everything that happened with last season. I'm kind of not surprised by that. But then immediately after that, he tells Deku, we're doing this, we want to do this by the books, we want to do this, he gives him a pep talk, calls him Trouble Child, which I love. I don't know if they did that in the sub. I only watched the dub before writing this review, so sorry if he says something different in the dub, but I love the fact that he called Deku Trouble Child. And, Aizawa is an incredible teacher, and I keep calling him Aizawa. Eraserhead is an incredible teacher, an incredible hero, and he points out that while Deku may not have saved Eri, he gave her hope. And that is played into immediately after with where we see Eri at the end of this episode. But before I get into that, we do get Gran Torino talking to Sir Night-Eye, and we sort of see what Gran Torino's goal was by having Deku go into the work study with Sir Night-Eye. He was in some way trying to repair Sir Night-Eye and All Might's relationship, or at least get them talking to one another again. And he points out, as an old man, it's his job to, take care of and help the youngsters. And he asks Sir Night-Eye what he thinks of Deku, and Sir Night-Eye says he's a lot like All Might, and he sees that madness that he never quite understood. And that really does speak volumes, because it means that while Sir Night-Eye didn't agree with All Might giving Deku that ability, or giving him one for all, it definitely shows that Sir Night-Eye understands what All Might was doing to a degree. He doesn't understand why or exactly how he was the way he was, but he does understand to a fundamental level what All Might was about. And he sees that in Deku. So that does show something, and I think that's very cool. And then at the very end, we see Eri, and we see an immediate follow-up to what Aizawa was saying, but we also see this just... I don't get it. I mean, I get what they're doing, but I don't like it. It's very upsetting. Aries, I guess, trying to sleep, and some random nobody mafia guy walks on in. He keeps buying her toys. She clearly doesn't want toys. She's not playing with them or anything. And she's very scared. She's very hesitant and withdrawn. And this guy's pretty much like resigned himself to the fact that he's probably going to die because he is instructed by Overhaul not to have Ari not want to leave. Make her happy. Make her so she wants to stay. And he has no idea how to do that, apparently. He's not very good with kids, and he's got a couple plans on what to do. But we see that him reaching out has her withdraw and stay as distant from him as possible, whereas she notices that Deku is very different from the way everybody else was. He reached out caringly. He held her. She recognized that it was different, warm, safe, happy, kind, and she wants that, which clearly with the Shie Hisaikai, she's not getting. But those words from Deku, him talking back to Overhaul and asking Ari if she's okay, and those words are just lingering in her head, and it clearly did have an effect on her, which means that, not Sir Night-Eye, that Aizawa, that Eraserhead was right. I feel like the students, I keep calling him Aizawa, and I want to call him Eraserhead. Anyway, yes, Eraserhead was right. Deku gave Ari hope, so while she wasn't saved then, she will be saved soon, and that's what I'm really looking forward to. And next episode is called Go, and I'm very excited to see what next episode is going to be because it looks like this is where potentially an attack on the Shie Hisaikai may happen, which is kind of scary because these students definitely are more ready than most, I would say, but not quite on level with the pros, at least not the 1A students. I mean, we've got the main big three, I almost said main three. The big three are probably going to be ready, but I know 1A probably won't be. But it's called Go, which means we're probably going to get some sort of attack on the Shie Hisaikai stronghold and probably some sort of fighting between the guys we saw like Mimic and potentially Overhaul fighting. So I guess we'll see what happens next. Otherwise, though, this episode was, I loved it. This was a great episode. Clearly I had a lot to talk about because there was a lot going on, even though 99% of the episode was a meeting, and the other 1% was kind of broken between Ari at the end and the traveling up to the meeting at the beginning. So I had a lot to say about it. I think that this was probably one of the better episodes, despite not a lot of action happening. In fact, no action happening, and it was really well written and really well done, and I can't wait to see more of it. So thanks for watching either way, guys. I hope you enjoyed this. Check out the links down in the description, and apart from that, I'll see you guys in the next episode. Make sure to be there and have a good one. Hey guys, just hopping in at the end here. Thanks for watching through the whole video. I hope you enjoyed it. I do still have merch. I've actually had it for quite a while, but not a lot of people know about it or care. And so if you guys want to support me or check it out just because it looks cool, go to the link in the description. You can see some of the designs I have, like the Steel Frodo in Steins Gate design, or even the Mob Psycho 100 design, and maybe even buy one if you like it, or don't. I cried myself to sleep at night anyway. So either way, guys, hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching again, and I'll see you in the next one.